Hi everybody, Professor Snart here. I'm just going to walk you through putting together a basic works cited page. So we'll be juggling a couple of different things here, a Word document that I'm working in, the library's web page including the citing sources, but also their databases links here. Okay, so first we always will follow models based on the citing sources link. So if we've used a book or a short story or play or poem from our Norton Intro to Lit book or a journal article, we know we need to include that in our works cited list. So by following the citing sources here, we have a list of models that we can follow, and remember to follow the MLA style. We use that in English, although often if you're in a psychology class, for example, you might use APA style. So as if one wasn't confusing enough, there's multiple citation styles to be aware of. So print sources are fairly simple. If you're just using a book, for example, scroll down to the examples that are provided. There's a kind of model here and then a specific example with author names, book title, notice it's in italics, publication information including the date, and what's called the medium, or in this case just print, as opposed to say web or video or other things like that. So books are fairly simple. Anything from our Norton Intro to Lit book will follow this model, article chapters from an edited book. So we can again follow the model and the specific example here. This is the author of the play, the short story, the poem, whatever we're talking about, the title of that work, and then of course here is where we would put the Norton Intro to Lit and all of the information about the editors, place and publisher, date of publication, the page numbers front to last of whatever work we're talking about here, and then again that medium of publication, in this case print. Another very common one for us is going to be material from the databases, so journal article from a database. Again, we can look at the basic model here, but also the example with specifics. Author, title, there might be a journal, the database, the medium, in this case web, and then the date of access. It's fairly simple, but nothing you'd ever really memorize, so you're always just going to come to the citing sources web page here and just follow the models. What I often do, because again I haven't memorized these either, is I will literally cut and then paste them into the essay that I'm working on. And I always suggest that people build their works cited page as part of an essay that you're working on or assignment or whatever it happens to be. Don't build it as a separate file. It's just too easy to forget that you've done that and then not include that file when you submit the work, or you forget to cut and paste into your document or whatever it happens to be. So this would be the last page in a longer essay that I'm writing. So I start by centering this title, Works Cited. No bold, no underline, no weird font or anything like that, just simple Works Cited. And then I'm just going to go down a little bit and then paste this in so that when I have my source in front of me, I can simply fill in the pieces. And then of course I'll get rid of this later. Also remember that this is all double spaced, even though it pastes in as just a single spaced example. So let me go back to the library page here, and we'll actually find a secondary source and build the works cited entry. So I might be working in this McGill on Literature Plus, and let's say I've been studying the short story Araby. So I've already found this secondary source, I've used it, quoted it directly in my essay, and now I'm doing the last step of just putting the works cited entry together. So what I need to do is find all of the basic information, and it can be confusing. For example, the title is given as Araby, but of course that's also the title of the short story. So we have to be really careful within the text of our essay to be sure we're clear about which Araby we're actually citing from. Notice too the author name is given as James Joyce, but we know that's the author of the secondary, or the short story, not of the secondary source. The secondary source author, or the author of this material right here, is given down under essay information. And again, because databases are set up slightly differently, this information may not appear as the same way that I'm looking at it here. It may be formatted differently, or often you won't have an author given for the secondary source, in which case you're just using the title within citations. So it can be really confusing, and you do want to pay careful attention that you're getting the title and the authors, correct for which works you're talking about. But I do have an author here, so I'll start there. Literally, I need the author. Okay, so I cut and paste. I have to remember, though, that I need this backwards, or last name, comma, first name. How do I know that? Well, if I go back to my example, it doesn't say it here, but it does give me last name, comma, first name in the example with the specifics here. So again, just following the model. I don't memorize this stuff necessarily. Okay, title of article. Well, I remember that is Araby, which is a little confusing because, again, the short story is already called Araby. And now I need title of journal. So what is that going to be? It's not given very clearly here, but basically what I'm doing is trying to find where this information was originally published, usually in print form. And so what I can do is provide this Master Plots 2 short story series, and I just like to cut and paste again. If you get this clipboard that shows up, it's sometimes good to just do a keep text only, so it gets rid of any weird formatting that might come in. So that's the original place of publication. And I see from my example that I need that italicized. And now I look for volume number, issue number, year of publication, etc., etc. Am I given that? Well, maybe 2004, but really there's no other information. So in cases where the example calls for pieces of information that you simply don't have, you can just skip those. I mean, literally don't include them. If it's not given, don't make it up or try to guess. And we'll double check there's no page numbers given. Yep, so that pretty much covers it. Okay, so moving on, name of database. Again, even this can be confusing. Is it McGill on Literature Plus? Is it this EBSCOhost thing? Is it some other piece of information that's buried in here? Is it this Salem Press? Well, it ends up being McGill on Literature Plus, the very thing we clicked in to get into the database itself. So I will do my trick of cut and paste. Just keep the text because it's easier that way. Now, name of database, I notice, also italicized. So I have to go in and do that. I see there's a period. Medium consulted, well, I know that's the web, period, and then date of access. I'm going to check my example here to see what form they like that date in. So 30 Aug 2009, but for me, it's just going to be whatever it happens to be today. I think it's the 3rd. Oops. Now I double check, did I type that in right? 30 Aug period, 2009 period. All right, it looks good. Now I remember, this has to be double spaced, so I might just double space the whole page. And I have to indent everything but the first line. In other words, it's the reverse of a paragraph. So it begins flush left, but any subsequent lines in an entry, like this one and this one, need to be indented. So notice that my cut and paste method for my example, it's not perfect. You have to remember basic formatting things. So I go here and I tab, and I move this in. Often what happens is you are back here, you hit tab, and what happens? The whole thing moves over. A little trick, go to the end of this line and do Shift Enter, and then you'll be down here and you can tab over. So there we go. There's the first entry. And I would just continue with other database material, maybe books I've used, of course the primary text like the short story or play, or multiples of those if I've used multiple primary texts in my essay. All of these get included. Remember to organize them alphabetically once you've got them all in place, and then of course get rid of this extra stuff. So there, pretty simple works cited page.